What's up guys, Josh here, back again with another video. In this video we're going to be talking about the this Pekka 3 Musketeers deck that I have for you today. This deck is probably one of my favorite decks that I've played in the most recent weeks. It's just so fun to play, and also it counters a lot of things in the meta right now. It has the Bandit, the Bats, the Elixir Collector, Goblin Gang, Ice Spirit, Pekka, 3 Musketeers and Zap. And I've just been having a blast playing this deck recently. Obviously, it's still kind of spammy. It has that spam element with the Bats and the Goblin Gang. I did try Guards, but I just felt like Goblin Gang fit the deck better, especially with the Bandit. You know, because a lot of people are carrying Log and Zap these days, so you kind of have to bring either Bats or Goblin Gang or Spear Goblins. You know, I tried Spear Goblins, didn't really work out as well as the Goblin Gang did. Tried Guards, again, didn't really work out as well as the Goblin Gang did for me. And yeah, I've been having a blast with this deck recently. You know, one thing you got to know about this deck is that it's 4.1 Elixir, which is quite heavy, and I don't usually play heavy decks like this. I usually play anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5. That's my kind of range. But this one is 4.1, but it does have a pump, so obviously that helps a lot. And I would say the strategy with this deck is, obviously you want to get your pumps down. You want to get as many pumps down as you can, you know, but also you have to defend. You know, there's no point just putting pumps down, you know, and then they poison the pump, and then it's an even trade, and then you put another pump down, and then they poison the pump, and, you know, it's just this back and forth kind of pump war. But you want to try and defend it as well as you can. If that's not working out for you, you've got to wait for double elixir. Just defend, and wait till double elixir, and then get your 3 Musketeers in the back, and then your Pekka, and then you obviously want to on the side that has the 1 Musketeer and the Pekka, you want to support it with the Bandit or the Goblin Gang, depending on if they've already used their Log or their Zap. If they've used their Zap, go in with the Goblin Gang. If they've used their Log, go in with the Goblin Gang. And if they've already used their Zap, going with the Bats. And I think that's what makes this deck so good as well, is because it counters a lot of decks in the meta right now. Super good against Hog Riders, super good against the Giant Double Prince. That's everywhere right now. It's the only downside to this deck is it's not really good against Graveyard. You can easily win against Graveyard, but because you don't have the defensive poison to take their Graveyard out, it's immediately going to be harder for you, because if you play cards such as the Bats or the Goblin Gang, they can just poison or Zap or arrows or whatever they have inside their deck to get rid of those cards. So I would say always the key thing to the Graveyard matchup is to always switch up your the cards that you use to defend. So first of all, use a Bandit to defend the Graveyard, and then the next time they use Graveyard, use the Bats. Then the next time they play Graveyard, use the Goblin Gang. Then the next time they use Graveyard, use the Bandit, and then so on and so forth. And then they will never know what to counter with. So usually people with Graveyard are playing Poison to obviously get rid of whatever's in the Graveyard. So if they have that Poison and you play Bandit, they can't do anything. And then if you play Bats next time, you know, they might not be ready with their poison because they don't think that you have those counters. It's all about mind games when you play the Graveyard deck. You know, it's all about, you know, seeing what they have and then them knowing what you have, and then you using the appropriate cards to defend. But yeah, I would say Graveyard's probably the hardest matchup, or probably the Giant Spam, just because they can constantly take out the pump. And a lot of people just think just because you have Pekka, it's an easy win. But I disagree. I think Pekka Giant matchup is 50-50. And I talked about it in my previous video. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you check it out. I'll put a link in the description below. But yeah, I think this deck's super fun to play. I've been having a blast with it. I went 3-0 in a grand challenge with it, as you're seeing on screen right now. I faced a really interesting Pekka Balloon spam deck, which I've tried out before in the past. I really like that deck, but the problem with it is there's no big spell in it, so he couldn't take my 3 Musketeers out, and that was the key. That was the defining moment in the game, because he had nothing to take the 3 Musketeers out, so I could always play them for the balloon, and the only spell we had was a Zap, so it was always going to be my game, I guess. And then I came up against this giant skeleton bait deck, which was really odd because I hadn't seen a giant skeleton in months. So yeah, it was really odd coming up against that, but obviously I knew I had the Pekka, so it was kind of an easy matchup for me. And then finally I came up against an Expo deck, but he gave up halfway through. But we were pretty much winning anyway in the beginning. I knew that he had Expo. As soon as I saw his Mega Minion and his Ice Golem and his Ice Wizard, I knew he had Expo. So this is kind of segueing into what I'm going to say now, which is like, you have to always think about what the opponent's playing. Like, as soon as they play their first, 2, 3, 4 cards, you have to be thinking to yourself, like, what are they playing? How are they going to play it? How does it match up against my deck? What cards can I use to defend their cards? These thoughts have to be going through your head when you play different decks, and if you're not experienced with playing different decks, you might kind of be overwhelmed or struggle trying to pick it up, or trying to pick new strategies up, or trying to pick new things up, or new decks. And I would say just calm down, relax, just always think about like what they're playing, think about the cards that you have, and think about how you can counter them. The beauty about this deck is that it can counter so many different things. And obviously, like I said, Giant Double Prince is so strong within the meta right now that this deck works amazingly against it. As long as you can defend your pump, and then like I said, your main push would be obviously Pekka 3 Musketeers. And what you want to do is you want to drop your 3 Musketeers in the back first, so you can build your elixir up. And obviously, if you have a pump down already, you're going to get that surge of elixir by the time they get to halfway to the bridge. And you should have enough for a Pekka. So put the Pekka on the lane with the 1 Musketeer. And like I said earlier in the video, that will be your main push. Two Musketeers on the left lane, or however you want to do it. 2 Musketeers, I personally like doing in the left lane. But it depends. It's so situational. You have to, whatever tower has less damage. Whatever tower has more damage, that's the side you want to put your 2 Musketeers on. Because usually they will over-defend the 2 Musketeers. And then obviously on the side that you have the 1 Musketeer and the Pekka, you want to go in with the Bandit. If you have enough, you want to go in with the Bandit and the Bats. If they've already logged, like I said earlier, you want to go in with the Goblin Gang, and then vice versa with the Zap and the Bats. It's all situational. You have to just... I can only tell you the strategy behind the deck and how to play it. I can't really tell you in-game how to play it, and if that makes sense. You have to kind of just adapt and adjust to the situation. And that's what kind of makes a good player, and that's what, makes you be able to play any deck. As soon you can pick any deck up and be able to adjust and adapt and play that deck. That's how you're going to be a good player within the game. And that's just a little tip if you're trying to improve in the game. I just think you should try any deck. Don't stick to one deck. Try multiple decks and just always try and adjust and adapt within the game. Don't think that, I went a tower down in one of the games, and a lot of people would think, oh, that's game over. I can't win anymore. But I came back and I won 2-1 because I knew that I had the cards in my deck to be able to win. Pekka 3 Musketeers is super strong, and a lot of people will struggle to defend it unless they have perfect counters. Unless you're coming up against like Inferno Tower, Fireball, Zap, Guards, every single card that can counter the deck, you shouldn't have too much of a problem getting a tower. The only problem would be, the biggest problem within this deck is trying to defend the pumps. And obviously the biggest problem when you play a pump would be they can just play a giant at the bridge and a prince, so it can get quite tricky in that sense. So I would say don't start off playing the pump in the beginning. Cycle your cheap cards and see what they have, and once you know that they kind of don't have a big spell, or they don't have a minor, or that you've seen that they've already used their minor, or they've already used their big spell, then go in with the pump. And then they're going to really struggle, because once you build up that elixir advantage and you get your Pekka and 3 Musketeers down, it's going to be incredibly hard to stop it. And anyway, yeah, I just think that this deck is super fun to play. Like I said, I've been having a blast with it. Try it out in a challenge, classic or grand, whatever floats your boat. It's so strong. It's so strong, and it counters a lot of the decks in the meta. Let me know what you guys thought about the deck. I do think it can be improved. I have seen the variation with the Royal Ghost, and I've actually tried that out, and I do like the Royal Ghost inside the deck instead of the Bandit. But Obviously, the bandit has the charge, and that it's so situational. The ghost can work better in some situations, and the bandit can work better in some situations. So it really depends on what you like to play and how you like to play. And yeah, that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the deck. Hope you enjoyed the video as well. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. Leave a like as always, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.